Hello, everybody. I am Hex Harper, and today I have probably the biggest guest I've had on the show so far. The writer and artist of God's Hand, which is a phenomenal comic I have in my hands right now, Mr. Anthony Figaro. How are you doing?
Thank you, Hex. I didn't think you was gonna bring my weight into the thing. I know I'm pretty big, but I think Ethan's definitely bigger than me. As far as size wise goes.
Okay, but so you published a comic. How do you feel? And it's gotten out to backers and everything.
Yeah, it's surreal. You know what I mean? You do it, and you kind of I tell people you almost, for me anyways, I had like post traumatic stress all the way through, and even when the book came out, you still almost like in this gear, your mind is geared towards production, and you're like, okay, da, 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 da. And then you see people getting it, and then it takes a minute. You know what I mean? You see
Hmm.
a few people, and they start getting the books, and they start, and then you kind of breathe, and you go, oh shit, like that's I did it. You know what I mean? Like you're so. I know for me, I was so much like, man, I want to make sure I do this. I don't fuck this up. uh, Let me keep pushing, keeps grinding, blinders on going. That I didn't even, you don't realize you're past the finish line and it's okay, you can breathe now. And then when you do, you're like, oh wow, this is actually cool, man. Like, you know I did it, I made a book, and cards and all this kind of stuff like this, and it's like, wow, this is cool, man. And it's something else too when you see uh people, you know, who are saying, "Hey, I got the book. This is the book. This, that, and the other." It's like you realize, like it also highlights how special Comicsgate is, and how special the community is, and the fans in Comicsgate, and they're like, they're really out there, man, and they really support. And it's like, wow, this is really cool, man. To be a part of this and stuff. So it's been a great experience.
Yeah, I remember you talking on one of Preston streams, like how you always got to keep the hype train going and whatnot. It's just never ending. And then you got like people like me. Once you actually make the book, and it's just like, hey, you want to talk about your book now that it's done?
And it's, I happen to be a sucker for the microphone. I'm on my ham, so anytime people put the ability for me to talk and yap my mouth, I never turn that down. Um, but it's a different. You're on a different side. You know what I mean? Like it's when you're hyping everything prior to, there's still I think there's still the fear, I guess, that anything can happen between now and then, and you don't know. And I remember when the books got delivered to me, and I went and I saw them, I pulled them out the boxes and everything. I was so excited. I was like, wow. And then immediately I was exhausted. And I was like, God damn. I'm like, what is this about? And a friend of mine asked me, he says, did you breathe yet? And I realized like I had been, emotionally holding my breath this whole time. Because I mean, I'm telling you, like you don't I encountered so many issues between COVID and colorists, and again, I had metal cards that were printed that were messed up that I had to be sent back. I had issues with my metal bookmarks. Um, the first printer I had totally botched the proof. I had to go search down another printer, and that was a freaking whole freaking job. Then the first proof I got, the spine was all crooked. It was, I mean, so you're just like internally, emotionally, you're holding your breath. And then the books get there and they're like, man, these are great. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's like, and you are exhausted and you just don't realize it. And then the fulfillment, which is a whole nother animal in itself, man. It's a whole nother beast, you know? So that's done. So I'm kind of like, yeah, I'll come talk. Cause you know, I'm happy. I'm not doing fulfillment anymore. You know what I mean? It's fun.
Yeah, I remember the update about the second proofs, and just I saw the pictures you took of just the damage and everything. Just like, oh, how
Dude,
that was that
I
was
was
just a
dejected. I was so dejected when that happened. I was so dejected when that happened, man.
who are you? Who, like, if I might ask, like who were you contact or Who was the printer for
It was
that?
a low. It was a low. I try to do everything local. I
Oh,
really
okay.
do. I try to use everything that I can local. Um, One, I like supporting local businesses. Two, I like being able to go see the product. I like to be there on hand. It's a lot makes things a lot quicker too. I can move a little bit faster because I can pop over there, look at it. I don't have to wait for things to be mailed to me and all that kind of stuff. Like my t-shirts. My t-shirts are printed locally.
Okay, that makes sense.
Some of my metal, the bookmarks are printed locally. And again, it has its own set of issues because again, you're dealing with people who are more mom and pop. You know what I mean? So a lot of times they're doing the very best they can, and sometimes your need exceeds what they're capable of, and that's okay. That's okay too. So that's what happened with the some of the metal. That's what happened with the book. It was like, I kind of explained to him what I needed, and he did the very best he could, and it wasn't up to the standard that I needed it to be at in order to send this to customers. And so I was just like, why I can't do it. So I went with a different company. I went with Mixum, and
Ah,
they
yeah.
did a fantastic, fantastic job on it.
I heard a lot of good things about them. Uh,
Yes.
and I think what else was going on here, but so oops. And of course I can't talk all of a sudden. But the do you have any other plans for trying to get the book out to people aside from just fulfilling the backers and everything like that?
Yeah, we're gonna probably within the next week or two because I wanted to make sure the bulk of the books got to the actual backers first. Before we started to make it available to the public. And so what I'll do is I'll probably set up. I have a store on my website that I'm setting up now, so I'll sell from the website, and then I'll probably sell off of whatever wherever I can sell from. Amazon. I think I'm going to try to see what I can do there. Any place where I can sell them. I'm gonna and then locally, I'll probably go to my local Barnes and Nobles. I know there's two local comic book shops that has the books in them, like that. But nationally or internationally, I'll try to sell mainly through my website. Is what I'll do.
I remember your main goal for this book was to try to have like the most New Orleans thing to ever come out of New Orleans, and I was just thinking like you ever thought of like giving it to someone like the visitor centers or something like that. It'd be quite a standout amongst all the tchotchkes and everything.
Well, it was funny. I thought about there's actually two places. One is just for just to do it, but there's a Jean Lafitte museum down in by Barataria Bay down in Crown Point, Louisiana, and I was gonna go over there and see if they'd let me put a copy in there, and say, hey, look, this is pop, Jean Lafitte in pop culture, here's a comic book to put in a museum, but you could go to some of the spots in the quarter. Some of they have voodoo shops in there, and you could go in there and say, "Hey, look, can I put the books in here?" You could sell out of there as well. It just depends because people are funny. You got to figure out what they're looking to do. Do they want to do consignment? Do they want to keep track of the books? Like, how do they want to work it? People are funny like that. So it's just a matter of getting out there and just kind of again putting your feet to the streets and seeing what opportunities are there.
Uh, but let's well, I mean, let's talk about the story itself. It took you about how long did it take you to write this? What was your whole process through that? Because I do might want to eventually write a comic myself and put my hat in the ring. But
Gotcha. Um, for me, it's a different process because I'm an artist first,
mhm.
and I hone that skill first. But I like writing stories and stuff. So writing for me is almost, and I think I saw the other day, and I'm gonna make some. Graham Nolan made these templates, and on one side he has a comic book page, and on the other side he has notes. And what he does is he draws the page, and then kind of writes out next to it um, the dialogue, the tone, and whatever the case may be, which I found that's what I wound up doing. Like I knew the story in my head, right? So I knew where it was starting, I knew where it was ending, I knew what the main points were. So in your head, you just basically figure out, okay, what interactions need to happen between what characters, where does that take place, what happens, and again, you can write this out, you know what I mean? But then I would go and I would say, okay, page one, um, this is my page count, this is my pacing. Okay, so page one through eight is going to be the setup. This is where they're going to introduce the characters, and Lafitte needs to be notified that he is needs to go back to New Orleans because of the death of Marie Laveau. So then you wind up going, okay, cool. So let me set up a scenario in the jungle. They're hunting a monster because I want to showcase these characters in a way that the reader can see them but also be entertained at the same time. So then it would be, okay, so I'm going to create this chase scene with this monster and how these characters work as a team together, and Lafitte is the maestro, and he is orchestrating this, and then I can show each character, kind of show a little bit of their power, whatnot. Monster gets killed, so the reader gets this awesome thing where this monster thing goes on and he gets killed, and you get to see the characters, you're introduced to them in a very organic, natural way. It doesn't feel like everything's being shoehorned in. And then you get the news: Marie Laveau's dead. And then you have the shift back to New Orleans, and so it's like, okay, I need to introduce New Orleans, I need to introduce why they're there and what the mission is. So I got 5 pages to do that, and so then it's like, okay, well, we got to introduce this character, these interactions, da, 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 da. And so it flowed more through almost storyboard. Like I would have the main ideas in my head, I knew where I wanted to go with it, but I storyboarded most of it and then kind of filled in the dialogue afterwards because I knew what information needed to be um, displayed in this scene. They needed to know that Marie was killed. These were the markings that she was killed by. They need to know that Xavier's a prick. They need to know, they need to know who Roe is and the relationship between Lafitte and Roe. They need to know this stuff. So I did it like this. Then I went in and did the banter. Then I went in and did the dialogue. Then I went in and kind of filled that in, um, so that you would, and it worked in a way where you could look at the picture, because this is how I was always kind of schooled. You had when you did a story and you wrote and you drew it, because I was an artist first. You really should be able to look at the pictures and know what's going on. That the word, you shouldn't depend upon the words to tell you what's happening. And I felt like that was what helped God's Hand look the way it looked and flow the way it flowed, is because the pictures you could see. He arrived at the cemetery. He walked up to the crypt. He wrote something on the crypt. He's going down into the crypt. You could see these things happening. He walked into the place. He talked to the guy. They poured a drink. They had the drink. The 3 guys showed up behind him. The next thing you know, they shot. So you knew something. You could kind of feel what's going on. Okay, these guys just walked into the shop. They're fighting now. He just killed them. She blew herself up. This guy's taking him into an alternate room, which leads to this alternate world. And so you knew, you kind of, the brain knew exactly what was going on. The dialogue then kind of filled in these juicy details of, oh, okay, that's who Manny is. He's this gypsy. Okay, that's who this is. This is, okay, so there's, oh, these are the hoods. Okay, so then it started filling this world in, so that by the time it starts moving, you're up to, okay, it's the hoods. They're after them. They need to go find the Fisher King. There's the dead, and so you're right there with it as it's going along. So that was my process, which I wouldn't recommend to I wouldn't recommend to anybody.
It worked for you.
So. It did, and it's one of those weird things where if it can work for you, by all means, steal it, use it. If you can make use of it, go for it, man. I think this time around, I will. The only difference this time around is I will probably write out my scenes in my dialogue. I will try to write some of that beforehand, so that when I am developing the panels, because that was the only thing that I had an issue with, was that when I wrote the dialogue afterwards, some of it became problematic because of the shapes of the panels, because of how it was laid out.
Yeah, some of these
And
pages are kind of wordy, but I mean, it wasn't. It's just like,
it's
okay,
it,
that's a lot of dialogue bubbles.
I know, believe me. And it's, in some places it was like that. And so it was like, as a first time writer, you're trying to figure that out. Like, how much can I leave in and how much can I cut out? You know what I mean? And so, and again, and I was always open to, and I always am, constructive criticism. Anybody who wants to, you know, point out what worked for them or what didn't work for them, by all means, because I'm trying to hone in and trying to refine what it is. And even when I finished looking back on it, there were times where people were like, you didn't need to say this because the panel fucking said it. And then looking back on it, they were right. There were times when I did utilize some of the caption boxes more than I needed to. I just didn't need to do it. And I think that was more of an insecurity of a first time writer, first time creator. It's like, well, let me make sure they know. And after the fact, when you look at it in total, and someone kind of helps and points it out to you, you realize, nah, that you could have left. You could have kind of, not put that in there.
I did have a question about one of the characters because Finn, because I got his place. I understood his place on the team and whatnot, but I had no idea what he actually was, and I don't remember
Right.
it being brought up in the story at all. Like, because you have the Yeti guy, you got the
Right.
uh, swordsman witch and whatnot, and then you have the tech girl with the cat ears. Like what are you? I
Right. So, so again, this is one of those things where you're trying to push the story, and because initially there was more to the story. Okay, so and that's the thing, is like, man, I cut so much out of the story, and so much so that we actually have a in the book, which when we finish with this, we'll talk about Justice City Chronicles, which is coming next. We put a deleted scene in the back of the book. So the deleted scene is from God's Hand, and it's called Victoria's Secret, and it basically kind of tells you, well, what happened to Victoria? You know what I'm saying? Like, it does that. I had a scene where they were going to go into the building, and with Roe, Jade, and Finn, and there was going to be more dialogue about Finn, in what Finn was and how him and Lafitte met. But you're trying to push this idea of, there's a murder, they're tracking this murder, they have 48 hours, and you're keeping this pace, that this is, you're trying to move this pace along, so that, is the story about the team, or is it about Lafitte in New Orleans and Marie? What is the story about? And
yeah.
so you have to make a decision that, well, the story is about Lafitte, and it's about his relationship to New Orleans, it's about his relationship to Marie, which is where the story's told from. How you find out about different things, how you find out about relationships, how you find out about the NOPD and all these things like this. It has everything to do with the relationship between Jean and Marie, which then at the end of the book, you understand that's what this is all about. So getting sidetracked sometimes, which I wanted to do, if I could have broken this down into floppies, this easily would have been a 12 issue series. Easy, where I could have easily went off on a side tangent and told the story of Lafitte and Finn, and tie you into, because the reality is no one knows what Finn is. That's part of the thing. And I'm not sure, but I think I didn't have room for it, but when they walked through the scanner, the scanner was going to say human over Victoria and unknown on Finn. And what happens is later on you come to find out what Finn is. Finn is tied to the Lovecraftian gods of chaos.
Okay, yeah, that was another question of because Cthulhu just like pops out at the very end, spoilers, and he just kind of goes ooga booga booga, and then the God's Hand devil's there, and I'm like, wait, so how much relevancy does Cthulhu have? But I guess Volume 2 will bring that up a
Right.
bit more.
Again, it's one of those things. I hear you. Believe me, I was like, God damn it. You'll figure out what the deal is, because again, the idea is because that's the thing too. You are trying to foreshadow, and you are trying to put questions in there that
Hmm.
aren't answered, right?
Yeah.
Not to what happened to Marie, who, you know what I mean? That there's a closure to that. The ultimate story is about Jean Lafitte finding out who killed Marie. Like that's the whole point of that's the whole reason. That's the hero's journey. Status quo is he's a monster hunter with his team,
Hmm.
right? What breaks that, the call to adventure? Marie's dead. We need you to come here. You got 48 hours. Right, the wizard that he meets, that's Manny. That's his that's his guy. You know what I mean? So there's these marks in there that again he goes down into the underworld. That's the parking garage, right?
All right.
To
Yeah.
find you know what I'm saying. So you get into this thing, and then at the end of the story, he returns with this new knowledge that there is this thing called the Black Queen, that there is something more going on here. He's changed because there's this thing that has been awoken inside of him, right? And so that's the deal. How Cthulhu plays into it, what Finn
Hmm.
is and stuff. These are like side questions that are like cool. Hopefully we get answers in the second book, which you will. That's the whole point.
All right.
As
Yeah.
a creator, it's like, yeah, I think it's shitty if you leave things that are unanswered
Hmm.
and just don't answer them. I think
Cough,
that's
cough.
shitty.
J.J. Abrams. Cough, cough.
That's what I'm saying. Well, I mean, Ryan Johnson, where it's like, there's this setup, and then it's like, oh, well, we don't get answers to any of this stuff, and so it's kind of like, that becomes problematic in that department. So I think in the second one, you definitely are going to have the answers to a lot of those things, because they're going to start tying into definitely the thing between Lafitte. You'll find out more because you find out that the epilogue where he goes down to talk to King is actually a scene that takes place in the second book.
Hmm.
That when the second book picks up, he then, right on the heels of the first scene, goes to see King, and their conversation's a little bit longer, and so you get this kind of backstory of Lafitte of, well, how's he immortal? How does he become like this? What's the real deal between him and Marie? And you kind of get this internal stuff, but then you start realizing that there is something more to the history of this world than has been talked about, than is known, and that King knows the real origins of everything. And that what happens is you're discovering this, as Lafitte's discovering, is that the seeds of this place, the seeds of this universe, were sowed by the Lovecraftian gods of chaos, which no one really knows that. You know what I'm saying? And so you're learning that as Lafitte's learning that, and what you're learning is that God's hand thing is a direct result of that. That's tied to all that type of shit. So what's happening is this world that the Black Queen comes from, and that's what she tells him, that you've been lied to about the history of things, about your history and stuff. You know, I am the mother of all things. And you start to understand that there's like two veils, right? There's the veil that goes over everything, but then there's this veil that even the people who know about monsters and know about these things have been operating under, that this world that you're in, there's another world underneath it, which was the world they found, this older world that was the world behind the world. And it's like, well, what is this place? We don't even know what this is, right?
Hmm.
And so you start to understand that older world is the world of the ancient gods and whatnot. Yeah.
How many volumes do you think the entire story will take to tell?
The first arc is probably 3 to 4 volumes.
Oh, okay. So
Right.
this is
Yeah, it's
meaty.
3 to 4. Yeah, it's 3 to 4 volumes. The next volume, I had an idea for 3 volumes, but the problem is this next volume, I'm gonna probably cut, because you got half of it is going with finding the book, right, and
Yeah.
the other half is rescuing the team. So if I can pull it all off in one, I will. But I think this next volume may just be about where Lafitte has to go in order to recover the book, and that the book will fucking probably end with him finding the book.
All
You
right.
follow what I'm saying? And that's the journey. And the next book is, you know, what's, you know, where he has to go to get the book and who's trying to stop him from getting the book.
But yeah, I can definitely tell that you had a lot of fun writing this. You had a lot of fun just making this thing. There's I feel the love you have in this book and whatnot. And I also just want to state just how much I love this fucking cover over with Baron Samdi and everything. Just excellent, absolutely excellent stuff on there. Um,
It's definitely going to present a. It's definitely a. It caused me some anxiety, you know, because I'm like, you know, you start thinking, okay, volume two, I've got a top volume one. It's like, you know, it's like, fuck, man. You know, it was one of those, and I'm telling you, man, it's one of those things where, you know, you end up in this place where you're designing stuff, you know. It's all, and most of the stuff I did was completely on the fly, you know, and I'm designing shit on the fly, and I made that image, you know, and it wasn't supposed, it wasn't a cover image. Like my original cover images it was the team on the cover, you know what I'm saying?
mhm.
And I was like, well, let me do this, and I was like, let me do that, and I did it, and immediately a friend of mine who isn't even in comics goes, "Oh, bro, I got you got to get that color. I need to get that on a T-shirt immediately." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool," you know. So I went and got it colored, and it was like, bro, everybody was just like, "Man, that is fucking killer, dude."
Yeah.
Dude went and made T-shirts. Like the moment it got colored, he went and got T-shirts made. And I was like, God, you know, cool, man. And people just fell in love with it. Then I had the colorist do the charcoal one, and people were like, fuck, that cover fucking looks killer, bro. And I was like, okay, well, this will be the exclusive Indiegogo cover, the pre-order cover, you know, and then the red cover would be the cover that the public would have access to. So when I sell to the public, they'll only be able to buy the full color. They can't get the charcoal. That's the Indiegogo only cover.
Okay,
You know what
yeah.
I'm
So
saying?
for say I thought it was flipped the other way around because I got the charcoal black cover, and I think yeah that one
That's the
looks a
Indiegogo
lot.
cover.
It looks a lot better and
It's
whatnot.
got. I'm telling you, it was one of those things where I'm telling you, man. If you don't believe in God, I do, because he basically blessed me, because it was like, you know, none of it, like, again, it fell into place. You know, the original cover looked great when we made the charcoal version, which again, I did a reverse color one where instead of having the red background, we did a green background, um, with was it a red cover, green background? We changed some of the colors, and then he did the charcoal one, and I was like, man, that looks fucking good, man. You know. And so then we took that one and we ran with that one. You know. So it leaves me in a place of definite insecurity, because now I'm like, okay, we got to make sure that the next cover is just as good as the first cover. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like, okay, how can I recreate lightning in a bottle? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, shit. You
Uh,
know.
yeah. Sometimes when something's too good, it becomes more of a pain in the ass if
Ah,
you had something that was just utter crap.
I
Because
know.
like,
I set the bar high for myself. I didn't mean to, but I did. You know.
uh, yeah, and then you mentioned Justice City Chronicles, and it's mentioned in the back of the book as well. Anything you
Hmm.
could tell us about that?
Can you do you know how to can you pull up let me see if I can get you the link. Let me see
I'll
real.
put a link in the description for everyone else of the sign up list.
Gotcha. Do you have it, or do you need me to shoot it to you?
Uh, I can I can probably find it again real fast.
Okay.
But, let's see here. Indiegogo. There it
Oh, you
is.
type way faster than me. Jesus.
Well, part of it,
Well,
I got on the sign up list earlier today, so it was autocomplete and
gotcha.
everything. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and let's see. Wait, don't need that anymore. Uh, there we go. Yeah, I got the Justice City Chronicles page up. Uh, did you want me to play the video, or were you
Yeah,
gonna?
that would be great. The video is cool, man. Marcus just premiered it today, as a matter of fact.
Oh, all right, we're watching a video inside my video.
Hey, you're right, man. It's technology, bro.
I guess I'll share the screen here.
Trying to get used to all these things myself. I'm threatening myself that I'm going to start a show.
Yeah.
You're gonna make it, and you know what I mean. And it's like, getting used to sharing screens and stuff is like, especially if you haven't done it a bunch of times. Like, even if you've done it a few times, it's still like, oh, fuck this up, don't mess it up. You like press them, like, oh yeah, I forgot to press the file. You share audio and all this kind of shit. Man.
Oh yeah, it's
I had my moment. I was on the John Daly show. And I had my, oh, you pressed it. Oh no, don't press it. Shit. Yeah.
the art looks great. More of your work as well.
It's a it's a relaunch.
Oh, it's a relaunch.
Yeah. So basically, what it is we did Justice City Chronicles back in 2005. So we have the original 12 pages, which we have in the book, and then we have 24 never before seen pages, which were created later, and then we have 16 to 20 pages, which will be fresh, which I'll draw. We'll have like an 8 to 10 page epilogue, an 8 to 10 page prologue, and then, like I said, then you'll have the 4-part series, the 4-page Victoria's Secret deleted scene from God's Hand in the back as well. So you'll have close to, in between, I guess, 20 and 24 new pages. Like I said, 24 new pages. You'll have 48 never before seen pages, and 12 pages, which again were the original pages, but Marcus went in and remastered them. So they're been touched up, and then he's changed massive amounts of the dialogue. So there's so much difference in dialogue that it's the same story, except there's all kind of information that's been added because we've expanded the universe and expanded the story. And so to tie all that stuff in, it's like, well, we had to actually cut stuff out and put new stuff in. So really, the first 12 pages, although you've seen them before, you've never read it like this before.
Oh, okay. And then, so what exactly was it about? The story about? I didn't really.
Okay. So Justice City Chronicles is basically a setup, and what the story is mainly about is it follows this character Nero. Right, Nero is the main protagonist of the story, and basically what the story sets up is that in the ruins of this great war, the realm of Victoria, which is in the center, is Justice City, rises up as a new power, and they kind of inherit the mantle of keeping the peace. And so from this, the Praetorians are born, and there's basically the Praetorian Academy, and basically they go and they collect, the best of the best, and they train them in this academy to be these elite warriors. And what you find out in the story is Nero is in this academy, and this is his training day. This is his, rite of passage because he has to go through the gauntlet. And the gauntlet is essentially him having to face down um, five of the Praetorians who have just graduated, the top of the class. He has to face them down. And what you find out in the story is that his father was wore the title of Praetorian, Grand Praetorian, and he started the Praetorian Academy. And then you find out also he has an older brother who is going to also inherit the title of Grand Praetorian, who at the end of his trial, that's who he has to fight and that's who he has to face, is his older brother. Um, and so what the story is setting up is, essentially, what does it mean to be a good son? What does it mean to be a good brother? What does it mean to be a good father? Ultimately, what does it mean to be a hero? What is a Praetorian, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they follow the oath of the Praetorian, and their loyalty is to the oath of the Praetorian. And so, what does that mean when the institution that is supposed to protect these rights is now being subverted and being taken over? Where is your allegiance to? If it's to the code, then you have to go against your own institution. So then it becomes, well, what does it mean to be a patriot? What does it mean to be a hero? What does it mean to be these things? That to stand up against oppression, to wake people up out of their mediocrity, to wake people up out of their trance, it doesn't always end with applause. It doesn't always end with you being cheered on. Sometimes it ends with you being spit on. And when that happens, what pushes you forward? What forces you to move forward? If it's not the applause of the crowd, if it's not for these things, why do you do it? Why do you continue to do this thing? Right. And so then you start to understand what the essence of a hero is, ultimately what the essence of being a Praetorian is, holding this code of honor and following it, even when it's uncomfortable. Everybody can be a hero when everyone's cheering you on, but can you be a hero when it goes against that and people and everyone's against you? Can you still do the next right thing? And so it's setting all that stuff up. That's the whole setup, you know.
Wow, that's that's quite an impressive story there. Everything. I
It was a
look.
lot of fun, man. Yeah, I think that's why Marcus and I wanted to relaunch it. Like we were, we saw, Fraga, bringing back, Black Flag, and Ethan and everything he's done with Cyberfrog, and just and then bringing up Creed and all this stuff like this. And it was just like, man, like we had so much fun doing that story, and why the story didn't go any further had a lot to do with just fate and natural occurrences. I mean, essentially the main one was Katrina, because that book dropped in October of
Ah, okay. All
2005.
right. Yeah, I
I
just.
got tagged in August of 2005, which I mean, severely sent me on a on a drug and alcohol bender that lasted about 10 years. So that was a traumatizing experience that changed a lot. And so coming back to comics, coming back to this stuff, me and Marcus were like, man, we had so much fun doing this and creating this world, because it has all these elements to it, where it's like, we have, we sprinkle in some of the Jedi stuff. We sprinkle in G.I. Joe. We have mechs in it. We have this Roman kind of feel to it. There's the samurai feel to it. There's this Dune aspect to it of politicalness that's in it. And it's like there's all this stuff that we said we love all these things. Let's put this in here, for whatever reason, and that's why me and Marcus was so wanted to go back to it. For whatever reason, it meshed like really, really well, man. And it's like all the parts were there from all these different aspects of these different places, but they all meshed to where they all seemed like they belong. Nothing seemed like it was shoehorned in or forced in, or why would that even be there? It was like, oh, okay, this is how this is. Boom, 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 and it just layered out. It was like, wow, this is a fun story. I have a lot of fun doing this. And Marcus has been really cool, because Marcus is the creator and the writer, and and even from the beginning, him and I we hit each off so well that he allowed me to come in and kind of say, hey, let's add this, let's do this. And I was so in tune with him. He was like, perfect, that's right on par. So it was one of my first experiences of actually drawing a book that went and actually saw publication, but also you know, dipping my toe into the creative side and adding things in and going, well, let's add this, and it working, you know. So it was a lot of fun, and so it was just like, yeah, man, let's bring this back, let's do this, you know.
Uh,
So
yeah, I know. I know exactly how it is when it's like you know someone you just gel with, and uh,
mhm.
yeah, things go. And but yeah, fucking Katrina. I'm sorry. I'm
Now it
kind of
was.
curious. Like, can I was absolutely nowhere near it or anything like that, so I couldn't really. Uh, so I'm honestly just kind of curious about what was your experience during that whole thing, if you're willing to delve into that at all.
I mean,
Like, you don't have to or anything.
Katrina was one of those things that I felt guilty about because, and again, you look at things differently. I don't, get me wrong. I wouldn't change anything. Katrina was I had Katrina was one as a let me as a former alcoholic and drug addict. Okay,
Hmm.
Katrina was one of the best times I ever had. We basically I stayed. Me and my father stayed, and it was basically for me. I wasn't in New Orleans. New Orleans. We were
Hmm.
right on the outskirts of New Orleans. We was about 10 minutes away from New Orleans. Um, but we were like, we didn't have power for I don't know 2 weeks or whatever. The National Guard came in and we would get MREs and ice from them and shit like that. Um, but it was the Wild West, man, and like the neighbors behind me, they left and the power went out and trees fell and knocked fences down and we was inspecting our yard, their yard, and all this kind of stuff like this, and we noticed they had a deep freezer, man, and basically all that food was going to go to waste. So we took it and we just cooked it, and I mean they had baby back ribs and shrimp and all. I mean we were living like we was on the hog. So we had so much food we had to bring some to the police because we were like, bro, it's going to go bad. So we brought some food to the police and shit like this. My neighbors on the other side of me, they was going. They had a pool, an above ground pool, and the storm had thrown branches and shit in it and stuff, and it was turning green and shit. I went over there and pulled all the shit out of it, cleaned it up. I was shocking the pool, got it into crystal clear. Hell, I was swimming. I had a barbecue pit full of food, and I'm swimming in the pool and shit like this. And just I didn't have I fueled my self destruction. I did more drugs and alcohol in that period of time than I'd done probably in my whole life.
Oh, wow.
You know, which led me further down into the mire. You know what I mean? Which then brought me to where I am today. So I guess that's why I don't speak about it in ill terms, because everything happens the way it's supposed to happen for me to be where I am here today. Talking to you about a book that I put together, published and made. About to launch another book. So all these things happen the way they're supposed to happen. So I don't look at them. I wouldn't be who I am today without these things. So I had fun. Sorry, this is not.
No,
It's not a depressing story.
no,
It's,
that was totally
it's,
fine. Whatnot.
I keep telling people I'm going to get my dad on one of these streams one day.
I bet he
Yeah,
has a lot of stories to tell.
yeah, oh my good. Him and I, he's got even more stories than me, but they're all inappropriate stories. They're non-comic related, inappropriate stories.
Like, but I guess I'll go ahead and end things here. Anthony, thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it and
No,
whatnot.
man, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I appreciate you supporting the book. I appreciate all the help you get, man, because you know, you guys really are the heart and soul of CG. I mean, it really is. You can say what you want, but you guys are the ones that you're out there and you're putting your money where your mouth is.
Uh,
You're supporting, you're retweeting, you're having shows, and you're having me on, and all this kind of stuff like this. And that's the heart and soul, man. Straight up, that's what separates CG from everything else.
anything you'd like to shill? Where can we find you? Where on any freaking other shows? Something like
Ah,
that.
um, let's see. You can find me on Twitter You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me on Parlor. You can find me on Minds. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on all those. Either type in Anthony Figaro or Kid Destructo. Um, or you can go to www.kiddestructo.com, and you can find me there as well. And you can contact me anytime. If you need any work done, you need any covers drawn or pinups done, you can hit me up, sketch cards, whatever the case may be. Um, and then go sign up for Justice City Chronicles.
All right, I'll put some of those links in the description. And thanks to everyone else for watching.